just to show how to export correctly HDR10 Plus metadata from DaVinci Resolve, and then to mux that exported metadata into a final output file that is HDR10 Plus compatible, and hopefully will trigger HDR10 Plus on your particular display device, final display device, likely a TV. Okay, so this is not going to be an HDR tutorial as such. I've got some clips here which I've graded here in DaVinci Resolve. Let's have a look at my project setup first of all. So I'm in 2020 color space, PQ curve limited to P3 D65, and outputting to Rec 2020 ST2084 1000 nets. Let me just tell you about the clips I've got here so it's not distracting. These three clips here which I've got, just to show, I've got a node here which I use since I'm on an iMac here, which just sort of simulates an HDR tone mapped version of an HDR output. So if I put that mode on, or that node rather, you can see that the data here is now tone mapped. It's not really relevant to the job in hand, but I don't want you to be confused by what this is. It doesn't really matter, so don't focus on that. That's just for display purposes. Okay, so HDR, the state of HDR10 Plus, the dynamic metadata in DaVinci Resolve, I think by Blackmagic's own admission, is still in a state of testing. If you use the HDR10 Plus controls for dynamic metadata in DaVinci Resolve, you'll see that you don't actually get access to the trim pass controls, which you'll see as I demonstrate in a minute. Okay, so if you want to set up your project for HDR10 Plus, you need to go into your project settings, and you need to, once you've enabled all your normal HDR settings, you need to tick this box, HDR10 Plus, and enable it, which you probably know already. Save that, and you will notice immediately there is a slight change to the luminance of the viewer here. I don't know why this is taking place. It may be a bug, and there is some talk about it on the forum, but I'm not sure quite what's going on there yet. Anyway, I digress. As you know, it will add an HDR10 Plus panel here, and here you can see that these anchor points, or the controls over which you would have over the dynamic tone mapping, are in fact grayed out at the moment, and that's part of the ongoing test process, I believe, but hopefully we'll get access to those. However, this isn't really about that as such. As you probably know, to start, once you've done your grade, and I've just done a quick color grade here, not really a color grade at all, but just set some levels. What you need to do now is to tell Resolve, or allow Resolve, to analyze these clips for HDR10 metadata, HDR10 Plus metadata, I should say. So I'm just going to disable these preview nodes, or rather the HDR simulation nodes, because that will probably interfere with the data. So what we do once that's all selected is you select a clip, and then you go to the color tab at the top, and you go to the bottom here, HDR10 Plus, and you analyze the selected shot. So first of all, you allow that to do its work. Keep an eye on these anchor points down here. They should change. Yeah, there you go. So a couple of the sliders changed. That is Resolve analyzing what it thinks the dynamic metadata should be for the target display luminance of the output chosen, in this case 1000 nits. You'll see if I check the enable tone mapping preview on and off that it's applying what it thinks are the correct settings there. Now I need to do the same for the other clips. Analyze selected shots. These two clips here are actually raw clips, so they take a little bit longer to analyze. While it's doing that, our aim here really is to just get the metadata analyzed while we're in Resolve, and then what we're going to do is export the metadata, not embed it in a file, which causes problems at the moment, but to export a sidecar JSON file or JSON file, and then we're going to see how we're going to mux that file into a final output into which the correct metadata should be embedded. Right, so it's done that clip. Let's do this final one. Analyze shot. Problem is at the moment that if you export directly out of DaVinci Resolve into an MP4 or an MKV or something like that, or a ProRes for that matter, some but not all of the dynamic metadata is present. The HDR10, straight HDR10 metadata is present, and that works fine, but HDR10 Plus needs a slightly different route so that it correctly triggers your television or display device to show it correctly. Okay, so now we've done that, now we want to go to the point where we export the metadata from DaVinci Resolve. And to do that, we go to the media pool and we select our timeline into which we've had our clips, and we go right click, timelines, export, and HDR10 Plus JSON. Okay, so that will bring up a export dialog. Now, something important to note here is that the file type you want to select is not the default one here, which is HDR10 profile A. You want to select the profile B one. Okay, you can give it a name, meaningful name. I'm just going to leave it as timeline 1 at the moment, or let's just call it HDR10 Plus test, and save that file to a convenient location. Now you're done. Okay, now once you've done that, you can go to your export tab or your delivery tab, and you can set about exporting your master file. Now, normally for a normal HDR10 file, you'd make sure that all these important things were ticked: export HDR10 metadata, embed HDR10 metadata. These are important files, important settings to address. What I would do in this case is I would uncheck export HDR10 metadata, since we've already got a sidecar JSON file, and leave embed HDR10 metadata, which will still embed some of the metadata that you need. In this case, I'm just exporting to ProRes master file before I then bake that into a final export file. So give it a meaningful name. Important things, of course, your color space tag and your gamma tag are important. In this case, I can have them same as the project because I know I've set that up correctly. All of the rest is pretty self-explanatory. Tone mapping, don't select that. Just leave that as none. Add to render queue and export. Then you're finished in Resolve, and we can move on to the next step.